Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our wrestling podcast. And before we introduce today's episode, we here at Our Wrestling Podcast would like to extend our thoughts and condolences to the family and loved ones of the Fink himself, Howard Finkel. He passed away on April 16th of this year. He was 69 years old. Rest in peace, Fink. We will miss you, and everyone will always remember you as the original voice of not only WWE, but of professional wrestling. So, without further ado, the following podcast is scheduled for one fall, and today's topic, the legacy of Kurt Angle.
Welcome to the O.W.P. This is our wrestling podcast. This is Dave, along with Jess,
David,
and Cuz.
you devour yet?
Don't forget Craig,
It's true.
bringing you our perspective
Oh,
on the world
nice.
of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. And now on to our topic today, the legacy of Kurt Angle. Hit us up on Instagram at OWP2019. Click on Linktree. You can find us on several platforms, including Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. Why are we talking about Kurt Angle today, guys? Not that I'm complaining in any way, shape, or form.
This is Dave's favorite wrestler. It's Arn Anderson and
He's
Kurt
great.
Angle, but Kurt Angle I think is number one. Am I correct
Yeah.
on that, Dave?
What about Flair?
By a
Flair's
mile.
in.
By a mile. Come on.
You like Flair too, though.
Flair,
but
Flair's
not-
all right.
Dave
but
is
Kurt
all
Angle,
about Anderson and Angle, the two A's. Double A.
Double A,
anywho.
MCO. Hey,
Join us
you
on
know,
Spotify.
And I
No, I'll tell you straight up. There was a time, probably over a decade ago, where when diehard wrestlers will always sit. Diehard wrestling fans will always sit around and go, "Okay, your top five. Who's your top five? And top five tag teams, top five WCW, top five wherever." And we literally, okay, who's your top five all time? And I get shit on a lot, as I'm not as. Well, no, I'm not. I'm just not I'm not a wrestling encyclopedia like some wrestling fans are. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's just no way I can't say this. I don't care what I'm gonna bring out in the fact. But I said, Jess, you're gonna give me some shit right now, but I'm telling you, Kurt Angle's in my top five. And that's when Jess, and it was over a decade ago. And Jess looked at me and he's like, you know what, man? He's like, that's a good argument. There's a lot of meat on that bone. I'm like, really? You think? He's like, oh yeah. He's like,
It's
that's
true.
he's climbing into
No pun
it.
intended.
Yeah, he's climbing into that top five, even greatest of all time categories. Not to say that he'll get to the greatest of all times. It is tough, and it will change over time depending on generation. But Kurt Angle at the moment is in that conversation. He's a Hall of Famer. He is one of the greatest of all time. And unfortunately, of current events of now, we just have heard that Kurt Angle has been released by the WWE due to the whatever constraints they're talking about. We can go over and over about how that's horseshit, but
Well, that's why I wanted to talk about him because I
yes,
was like,
exactly.
well, it's probably the perfect time to talk about him. I mean, not that there's ever a bad time to highlight Kurt Angle's career, but
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And he was just doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. He has been on camera for a long time, but just when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, just kind of topical. Let's talk about him.
It's a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there you go.
Just like you have the Hogans and Machos and Warriors that are childhood memories, and going into the Hearts and Ramones and HBKs. I mean, I know you guys are older than me, but for me, the teenage memories are Stone Cold, Rock, Angle, Triple H, and all those guys. So a lot of good memories
Yeah.
from Angle, man.
Angle
lot of
was
great-
right in
great
that
things.
conversation for sure.
For sure.
So Kurt Angle was born in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, son of Jackie and David. He attended Clarion University in Pennsylvania. He had a degree of education in 93. He has 4 older brothers. His father was a crane operator. He was actually killed in a construction accident when Angle was 16 years old, and he dedicated his career and autobiography to his father. He stated in an interview that following the death of his father, he would regard his wrestling coach as his paternal figure. And while training Angle Schultz, his coach was murdered in January '96. One of the sponsors in the Olympic perspectives. How did this guy win how did he win a medal with a broken neck? Can someone explain this to me? And his mother died in 2015 after a battle with cancer.
So far, typical childhood, Dave. I don't know.
Yeah, it just sounds pretty reasonable to me.
It's fucking normal. Who here hasn't had
white picket fans?
Everyone they love died.
Gold medal winner.
Holy crap! Right. So literally, he started amateur wrestling at Mount Lebanon High School. He won varsity leaders in football and obviously in wrestling, but he was an all-state linebacker. He was undefeated and on his freshman wrestling team, and he qualified for a state wrestling tournament in his sophomore year. That's saying a lot. To qualify for the state tournament in your sophomore year as a wrestler is not an easy feat. He placed 3rd in that wrestling tournament in '87. And then when he graduated high school, he went to Pennsylvania, Clarion University. He continued to wrestle at an amateur level. He was a 2-time National Collegiate Athletic Association Division I champion, a runner-up in '91, 3-time NCAA Division I All-American. Kurt Angle has a pretty decent, amateur wrestling background. After graduating, he continued to wrestle. He won a gold medal in the FILA Wrestling Championships in Atlanta, Georgia. And then he prepared for the '96 Olympics under Dave Schultz at that point. And he was training 8 to 10 hours a day. Obviously, fast forwarding, Kurt Angle won a gold medal, as we all know, with a what?
A broken
freaking neck.
Arm.
Broken.
I thought it was arm.
I thought
it was arm. I'm sorry.
I thought it was a pinky.
Stand corrected.
Right, yeah. So he won the gold medal in the heavyweight weight class despite that injury. He defeated an Iranian wrestler by the name of Abbas Jadidi. Official's decision after competitors wrestled an 8-minute one-on-one draw. Doesn't matter how the point scale worked out, but Angle's a gold medalist in the Olympics of wrestling, which is just absolutely incredible. And then he said in 2011 he was going to be doing a comeback in amateur wrestling in 2012, but he said he couldn't make the trials. He had a knee injury. He held an honorary title as a team manager, and he was already inducted into the International Hall of Fame in 2016 for amateur wrestling accomplishments. But we start to get into that professional wrestling career. So guess what? Kurt Angle's like, well, I guess my amateur days are over. So maybe I should go talk to someone in the professional wrestling world or the entertainment world. So he goes and talks to Vince McMahon, and he says, well, your 10-year contract sounds good, Vince, but I can never lose, right? And that's where Vince goes, ha ha ha! It was nice meeting you, son. And he sends him on his way, right? Shortly after that, Kurt Angle joins an ECW event in '96, October 26th. And, he attends a taping there, and he gave an in-ring interview. He provided guest commentary between Taz and Little Guido, but he left the building after Raven crucified a bleeding Sandman.
Oh, Sandman, dope.
By attaching him to a cross using barbed wire. Angle was so shocked by the imagery and afraid of his career prospects were going to be damaged, he threatened to sue ECW and Paul Heyman if he was shown on television in the same broadcast as the stuff.
Mr. Angle, I don't know what to say. It was
2
one of the
years changes
greatest
a lot, does it not,
moments in
gentlemen?
Olympic history when you won the medal, collapsed your knees, and then put the gold medal on your mom. That was one of the greatest moments in amateur sports history. And I thought you'd like to know, the young man sitting there was about to compete in this matchup. Little Guido is quite an amateur wrestler himself. New York State high school wrestling champion in both his junior and senior year. He's been competing in the U.W.P in Japan for a year and a half and just won a big match. Little Guido, this is Kurt Angle.
Mr. Angle, I just want to say it is an honor and a pleasure to meet you. And I hope you are impressed with the things I do tonight.
Damn right.
As I am as impressed with you.
So,
It is an honor to meet you. You are an idol.
When he starts
in
watching
my
Monday
eyes.
Night Raw in '98, he's like, wow, these world-class athletes do a lot of things that are athletic. And he saw Stone Cold and he's like, wow, this guy can entertain. And then he started to concede that this is not so bad. It's not as bad as he thought. So instead of having a 10-year contract literally handed to him, Angle had to try out with the company. And due to that tryout, he was signed to a 5-year deal in August of '98. So 2 years later, I guess the contract did come 3 days after the tryout. So obviously he was pretty impressive in that setup. He trained under Dory Funk. He had developed the Funk and JoJo training camp in Stamford, Connecticut. Began wrestling in front of a live audience. In under a week, Angle was already working. He was in the World Wrestling Alliance, the developmental territory for WWF at the time. And then he was also working under Tom Pritchard, and he actually wrestled on August 20th and lost to him there. He wrestled multiple matches in WWA, and it just kind of goes on and on. He goes under Pro Wrestling, PPW in Memphis, and you can see this is working pretty quick. He's in weeks and months, and then all of a sudden he's on WWF television on March 7th, Sunday Night Heat with Tiger Ali Singh. It's just, there's a lot of stuff going on. After several weeks of vignettes, Angle made his televised WWF in-ring debut November 14th at Survivor Series at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan. He defeated Sean Stasiak at that time.
When I first saw Angle,
Mm-hmm.
I remember distinctly thinking, because everybody knew who he was, but not everybody, but but people who just followed the Olympics and kind of knew his press, knew what Angle was and what he had done. So I'm really interested when I see an outside athlete come into wrestling, because there is such a fine line between a great athlete doing what you do, whether it's basketball, baseball, amateur wrestling, whatever. And then going over to wrestling, you have to learn how to entertain. You have to learn how to project your character and hit that fan all the way at the top row. And so I'm super interested when someone with an actual wrestling background comes in, because they can either not get it at all or get it like really quick. And I remember distinctly, and I'm not saying I'm some I saw it coming a mile away, but I watched him move and I was like, God damn it. Like, he gets it. Like, he just understands it. Everything he did, I was like, it's like he'd been wrestling for like 5-6 years on the indies, like before. Like, he was that good, that quick. And Dave read how fast he was, just going, they were just putting him through the motion there, putting him under, Funk, putting him under Dr. Tom, and just making sure that he knew the fundamentals, which I'm sure he picked up on.
Getting him used to losses too.
Yeah, getting him the on the circuit, and this is how it works. And here's you had the crowd here, and this is why, because you did this at this time. And so much you have to take in what would take most people years to kind of perfect. Angle was so good at it within a year of deciding that he wanted to come and be a pro wrestler, and the basic training he got and the little indie experience he got, he was already really, really fucking good on television. It was kind of amazing to watch.
No, I totally agree.
To start with an Olympic gold medalist thinks they have a very, very short window after the Olympics to get famous or to pick that next step. Look at Michael Phelps, look at everybody who's ever won a gold medal. And he spent a couple years, I think, floundering. I think he was a sportscaster. I think he pitched for local things in Pittsburgh. And to show how kind of green he was, or how innocent of the business, I think that whole story of thinking he was going to walk in the WWE and not lose because he's an Olympic gold medalist shows just how much he had to learn. And to go from that moment and to spend, I think it was Bruce Pritchard who said, amateur wrestlers spend their life not going to their back. And Kurt Angle immediately took to taking bumps and flat backing and just got his natural kind of movement. So to go from that and to become that, and then even when he started, to go from an Olympic gold medalist and to allow himself to be kind of a little bit cocky and a little bit, that slight kind of heelish but American hero, he came a long way, and it just shows how open he was.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, to me, like, because obviously, Stone Cold was the, he was the badass. He was supposed to be a heel, but you liked him. But like, to me, Kurt Angle was one of the first guys where like, this guy's pretending to be like he's good and wholesome with his, with his 3 eyes, intelligence, integrity, and intensity, and he was an Olympic, gold medalist and everything. But it's like you could see past that, and I fucking love it. I love the way he was playing it, and like, I think right off the bat too, didn't he come in with the 3 eyes? Not on Sunday Night Heat, but like when he first debuted against.
Yeah, that was like his introducing.
Yeah, it was
himself,
coming in right at this time.
But like you could see that, and it was like, dude, this guy's awesome. Like even though he's supposed to be a heel, and I'm supposed to kind of see those tendencies in him, but him playing the wholesome good guy, but you could see past that and see that he was actually a dick and going to be a heel. Like, that was just fucking great, man. Kurt Angle got it right off the bat. Fucking love that guy.
In so many ways, right? Like you said, to be able to work from your back, like amateur wrestlers are like, you can't ever be in that position. He's like, oh no, this is where you work from. This is where you come back from. He understood it pretty quick. I'd love to ask him that question if I ever got the chance to be in front of Kurt Angle. How did you go from that amateur background where you can never work from there to so quickly going, no, in this realm, it's all about performance. I'm going to be on my back, and it's all about how I get up. And I think he figured that out. I'd love to hear him tell that story. I don't know if we ever know that, right?
I think it was kind of like how I said when we talked about the the cinematic matches, the Boneyard and the Firefly Funhouse, where I said, all right, I got to separate myself from what I'm used to in professional wrestling. I got to get used to this, and I got to let go and just embrace this. And I think maybe that's what Kurt Angle did. He's like, okay,
I agree with you.
I get it.
Saying
I
that
gotta
is
do
great.
this.
Saying that is great. I get it. Doing it is entirely different.
Yeah.
So,
well, he was a
kudos to
natural
him
athlete too.
to
He was a
make that
can of
happen.
natty ice, man. He was a natural.
He is a natural, absolutely. So, when it comes down to it, you talked about the 3 eyes. He was presenting himself as a role model at that time, intensity, integrity, and intelligence in those promos and ring entrances. And even to the point where he would taunt people with, where are your gold medals? Right. So at that point, Angle had won both the European Championship and the Intercontinental Championship in February of 2000. And he billed himself as the Eurocontinental champion. He dropped both those titles without ever conceding a fall in a 2 falls triple threat match with Benoit and Jericho. Totally protecting him, by the way, because
and even before that, what really
favorites.
put him over, and I got to rewind back to Royal Rumble
You're
of
fine.
2000.
Oh yeah,
with Taz.
He was undefeated, and for 2 or 3 months, Angle was undefeated because he's a real athlete. He's like, I'm an Olympic gold medalist. You can't beat me. And he would cheat to win. He would pull tights and shit like that. And kind of, so again, to Cuz's point, he was building his heel character. You're kind of understanding who he was. So at Royal Rumble, it was pretty much like, I'm going to face an open challenger. I don't know who it's going to be. So he comes out there, and they're in New York, by the way. And so he gets out there, and he's just, he's doing his heel shtick with the crowd. He had been undefeated, and they had been, hyping. This is a huge lesson to me about how you manage an undefeated streak and how you can make it not kill the talent when they finally lose, unlike Goldberg or Ryback or other people, Asuka, with undefeated streaks. So he, out of nowhere, they play Taz's music, who had been rumored to jump from ECW to WWF. Well, it was true. So Taz's music plays, the place goes nuts. Taz comes out, puts his famous choke on Angle. Angle taps out, or he gets choked out.
He passes out. Yeah,
within a minute or whatever, and instantly loses his undefeated streak. You would think, what a squash match, what the hell? The next night on Raw, he gets out there, and I'm paraphrasing, but he basically goes, I wasn't ready. And he instantly got all of his heat back. It didn't matter that he lost. He didn't believe he lost in character. He didn't believe he lost. That is storytelling. That protected him. And he only got more famous and went up from that. Like Dave said, he wins the fucking Intercontinental and European Championship a month later because he was that fucking good. And that loss and losing his undefeated streak was almost like cutting shackles off of him. And he ascended after that, to where so much, in fact, that the guy who went over didn't have that much of a fun ride, Taz, after that, where Angle got, and that's just what you do. So when Goldberg lost finally, or Ryback lost finally, it's all about how you do it. If you make the undefeated streak itself define their character, and you take it away from them, you kill them. But if it doesn't define them, which I wasn't ready is genius, is fucking genius, and made people boo him more and made you be like, you fucking asshole. Like you totally, I watched you get choked out. Oh, and then I think, didn't he get the ref in there? And he's like, admit that you let him choke me. He choked me. That's not a legal hold. Yeah. And it was all beautiful. It was brilliant. And it saved his character. It's how you can get over more by losing. Like, it's a perfect example of if somebody's writing good shit for you and you're good in the ring and you can translate that. He was already an expert on the mic at this point, was he not? I mean, Jesus Christ. He already shows that he can adapt to wrestling.
Well, Taz choked out Kurt Angle at the Royal Rumble. I would put a lot of stock in the integrity of the IOC.
Now, it is to my understanding that it's not really his fault. I mean, he appears to be some sort of street dog that perhaps was not brought up the right way, and in turn lacks integrity, one of my three eyes. So all I wanted to do tonight is clear the air and say that no apologies are needed for last night.
I think that's what people underestimated him.
Not to worry.
Great at the mic.
Because your Olympic heroes,
They don't think about it at that time. He grew into it. I'm like, Kurt Angle was kind of good from the get.
So you can keep moving forward. Sorry, the
worries.
Royal Rumble to me was
it
was so important. It taught so many lessons about how they used to run their business, and they don't even run it like that anymore. They don't know what they're doing, and like it's so perfect the way he came up. And that loss was the best thing that could happen to him. Ironically, coming from a guy who didn't want to lose 3 years before or whatever it was that he first came in, going, I can never lose. I'm a real athlete. Man. Like, yeah. Now his first big match he lost, but it was the best thing to ever happen to him. It rocketed him to the top of the card, basically.
Yeah, because at this point, I mean, even though he's aligned himself with Edge, Christian, and Team ECK, which I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but they're kind of on their way up at this point. And then he kind of feuds with Too Cool and Rikishi, and then Angle defeats Rikishi in the finals of the 2000 King of the Ring tournament. So now he's already the King of the Ring winner. And then he went under a feud with none other than Triple H over a love triangle between them and Stephanie McMahon.
How great was that? Do you remember that? How fucking
great was that? It's fucking awesome.
Like, come on. Like, when you're put into this kind of storyline, big things are coming your way. And he's earned that, but he earned it quickly. I'm sure that was an issue in the locker room. Maybe
he handled it. Think about the way he handled it.
He didn't even have a problem. He had no issue. He didn't.
How many times now or even then do you see them try something like that with the wrestler? They put him up in a high thing. The angle doesn't go as planned, and then the next program is they're just kind of in the bottom of the middle of the card, and they kind of fade away. Angle was thrust up there immediately, and he passed every test, hanging in there with Triple H and Stephanie, the boss's daughter, which Vince watched all that shit really close because it was a higher up on the card feud.
Yeah.
And Angle just fucking almost, it seemed effortless, excuse me. That the way he handled it, it's like he wasn't even stressed about it. He just went in there and knocked it out of the park. It's amazing. It really is to watch.
Yeah. And did Triple H? Did Triple H let the young kid kind of go over and really make him?
I knew you were going.
Finally.
There was a change in the storyline, Craig. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, okay.
He lost to Triple H on Unforgiven, and he bumped in before that match had even started. He bumped into Stone Cold looking for, the perpetrator who ran him over. It wasn't Angle, obviously, but Angle offered friendship, one of his gold medals. Austin was not pleased. He was telling him he would keep it in a safe place, right up his ass, before attacking Angle and throwing his medal on the floor. So he attacked Angle before the match even started. Again, I hate to say it, it protects Angle a lot of ways in that realm.
Of course.
Losing Unforgiven is not bad when Stone Cold beats the shit out of you before you even come out to the ring. Following that feud, Angle receives another push. I think the push never stopped, but he pursues the WWF Championship. He defeats The Rock at No Mercy. There was botched interference with The Rock's behalf on Rikishi. He gets that victory over The Rock. He was the first wrestler to have won both an Olympic gold medal and a world championship. He retains that championship for the rest of the year.
And he won King of the Ring, and he was Intercontinental Champion.
King of the Ring, all that.
And he was Euro Champion.
Jesus Christ.
And he fought The Undertaker at Survivor Series in a 6-man Hell in the Cell. He beat Triple H in Royal Rumble.
That was Armageddon, right? The 6-man title match.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
And then he eventually loses the title to The Rock at No Way Out. That's quite a resume for just 2 years.
Goddamn right.
And then one of my personal favorites, I'm sure you'll get to, at WrestleMania 17 in 2001.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's
He
coming.
wrestled Chris Benoit in a match that, people don't talk about it for good reason. But I mean, like, legitimately,
Yeah.
like, some people were like, oh, man, like, he got the world title taken off him or whatever. Now he's back down to the mid card. If you ever view as getting in the ring at WrestleMania against Chris Benoit as a demotion, you probably should have your wrestling fan
You
card
should have your head
taken away from
examined.
you and ripped up
No,
and then
it's
shoved
not.
up your ass.
It's not a
Like,
demotion.
Whoa, right up
that's
the ass.
ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, think about
Like
the
Kurt Angle's
loaded
medals.
card that all the other storylines they had going at Mania 17. And I view it as a treat where they were like, we're not going to have any over the top, storylines with you, Angle and Benoit, like we do with the Linda McMahon being in a coma. And
We're just going to let the wrestling
And
tell
you're
the
gonna be
story.
the
Yeah?
wrestling.
We're gonna,
Yeah.
you guys just go out there and fucking wrestle, and they
Just
did.
tear the house
And,
down.
I mean, it was, you could tell they both just beforehand were just like, yeah, just fucking, just be as rough as you want, be as stiff as you want. Benoit would not have had it any other way. No jokes, please. And then Angle was super physical, and so Angle was going to get in there, and they both were swelling each other's eyes because they were doing the amateur wrestling spot in the beginning, and you could see both guys forearming the other guy, like rubbing it against the other person's eyes to purposely swell their eyes, so when they stood up, it looked like they were really fighting. And like, it was such a great match. And I think Angle escaped, didn't he, like, get in the ropes or something like that and pin him or whatever? He got a quick pin on Benoit.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, it was like,
Well, yeah.
I remember watching that match going, oh, the wrestling fan inside me.
He
to watch
defeated
pure
him at
wrestling.
WrestleMania X7, but then he lost to him at Backlash in the Ultimate Submission match. Benoit
was
defeated
also good.
Angle 4 falls to 3 in sudden death. Continuing that feud, Angle defeated Benoit in a 2 out of 3 falls match at Judgment Day.
Another
and then
great
Benoit
match.
pinned Angle after an Angle slam and a pinfall only's fall. And then Angle made Benoit submit with the ankle lock on the submissions only fall. Angle won the 3rd fall, a ladder match with the help of Edge and Christian. Just, I mean, when you think about all of that, it's just incredible storytelling, incredible work over a period of time. I know people just kind of shudder when they hear the word Benoit, but you can't, you just can't dismiss the ability that was in there. If you were in there
Benoit
with
was a very big part of his career, almost all throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely. I don't think anyone would ever disagree with that. Moving into 01 and 02, this is where we find Kurt Angle as a Grand Slam winner. When the WCW and ECW titles were purchased by WWF, the wrestlers from both promotions joined. They formed the Alliance. They invaded the WWF in 2001, dubbed as the Invasion. And as that result, Angle actually turned face. He began a storyline where he joined the forces with WWF champion Stone Cold Steve Austin to fight them and to resist them, right?
Some of the greatest comedy in WWE. Unlike
Is that where the
crap
little
they try to pull
cowboy
off
hat
lately.
comes into play, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
That's the best. That's my favorite.
Jimmy
shit.
crack
Like,
corn and all that stuff.
yeah, I mean, this is gold right here. If anybody ever wants to go back and watch some classic Stone Cold and Angle together, where he's like, yeah, I got you a hat, and he gets in that little fucking boy hat, and he
I love you.
wears it with pride.
I love you. You love me? Yeah, I love you. To me, the best comedy, like the only time WWE ever did comedy really good, was this time. Everything else is
Some of
cringeworthy after that.
Well, I think Angle just allows us to
Garbage.
be open up to that, and that's one of the things he contributes in this Hall of Fame speech is that just have fun with it and trust the people that are helping you out. And not sure if that's the best advice now, but Angle trusted
then
it,
was.
and it
Stone
worked.
Cold
Yeah.
was the guy you got to trust.
Well, and the writers
And Vince,
and all
too.
this
No.
stuff. And Vince.
What we can do, we get some steam, we can shape them later. Steam them? Yeah, make them an exact same.
Hey guys, how's this look? Yippee-ki-yay!
You look good.
Thank you. I feel great.
So, as part of the Angle team, WWF lost to Team Alliance when Austin turned on his team to join the Alliance. At the close of the match, Austin nailed Angle with a Stone Cold Stunner, causing him to get pinned by a Booker T. After winning and losing the WCW Championship, WCW US Championship, and the WW Hardcore Championships in matches with Alliance members. Angle defeated Austin in a SummerSlam rematch to win his second WWF Championship.
That was a really good match. That was a really good match.
It was a really good match.
So
And
a good moment.
Is that like all those titles plus 2 WWF heavyweight titles inside of 3 years?
Yeah, this was a second WWF championship
in 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So he dropped that title back to Austin in October 8th, episode of Raw, when Regal joined the Alliance as the commissioner and cost Angle the match. And then Angle subsequently turned heel and joined the Alliance himself during WrestleMania X7. He had a rematch between Vince McMahon and Shane McMahon. He interfered to aid Vince, but then struck the members of the team WWF with a steel chair. Angle later ultimately returned to the WWF side by enabling The Rock to defeat Austin in a winner-takes-all match between the WWF and the Alliance at Survivor Series. But he remained a heel, claiming sole responsibility for the destruction of the Alliance. Anything to say there so far? No? Maybe?
I'm just not a big fan of the Invasion Alliance angle. I thought it sucked. I mean, obviously the Stone Cold and Austin or Angle feud was fantastic and everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
The moments,
else,
there were
meh.
moments, but the whole invasion part was dumb.
whole
But
invasion part was just
you
a
had the
muddy
greatness between Austin, McMahon, and Angle. That's what made it, honestly.
Yeah.
And Booker T, of course, Booker T and Austin. But yeah.
Yeah. So at Vengeance, Angle lost to Steve Austin, who was the WWF champion at the time. But there was that one-night tournament to unify the WWF and WCW heavyweight titles. That was Chris Jericho and The Rock at that time. And then on January 20th of 2002, Angle entered his first ever Royal Rumble match at the Royal Rumble. Hey, was it a Royal Rumble match at the Royal Rumble? How this shit's written just fucking beyond me. He lasted until the final 2. He was eliminated by Triple H at that time, and then at No Way Out. Oh, what? What happened? He lost to Triple H again? Is that a problem?
No, Triple H never wins. I was just shocked that you said that Triple H won something.
Craig, any comment?
No, I think it's good for Triple H. I think he's just really starting to catch the eye of people at this point, and to give him the rub in this Royal Rumble. Good for him.
At No Way Out, Angle defeats Triple H with assistance from special referee Stephanie McMahon.
That's a fucking typo. There's no way Triple H lost.
For the right to face the WWF Undisputed Champion at WrestleMania 18.
Let me put the fast forward button on a little bit. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
I just
no worries.
So I'm going to jump ahead to WrestleMania 18, where Kurt Angle wrestled Kane. And you talk about like two people that you look at on paper, you're like, how the fuck is this going to work? I would dare I say to this day that he carried Kane to the greatest match that Kane ever had. And around this time, I could start looking at it and going like, how is Angle not the best wrestler in the world? Like I get the championships they give to you, they write it in the script, whatever. Okay, fine. You want to say that. But just what he had done in a short time, the way he adapted to the performance style, he was excellent on the mic. He had all those legendary matches with Chris Benoit and that whole feud. He also had the legendary vignettes with Steve Austin and the cowboy hat and the I love you and you love me and everything. He'd won multiple world championships already. He gets stuck with Kane, and I'm no offense, I don't have a problem with Kane. He's a Hall of Famer and all that, but that's like oil and water. Like when you look at it, it's like, what the fuck? And he carried Kane to a great match, and he won. He beat Kane at WrestleMania 18. And around that time, I'm like, well, what the fuck? This guy, like he's showing me everything that a truly great professional wrestler should show, which is taking people with lesser talent. And again, I'm not shitting on Kane, but you know, he's big. He's just a brawler. He's a little awkward sometimes. He's taking people and he's molding himself to them, going, I'll wrestle your style, but I'll put my little twist on it. You know, I remember a high spot in that match. I think he belly to belly Kane off the top rope to beat him. And like, it's like just amazing shit that he would do, and he would just put into his matches. It was incredible. So much to where we fast forward to SummerSlam of 2002, and he faces a pay-per-view debuting Rey Mysterio in probably, again, as many great matches as Mysterio has had. Probably one of the best of Mysterio's matches on the main stage in the WWF and like the big time, and one of Angle's best matches. Their match at SummerSlam 02 was. You go back and watch that anytime you want. That match is fucking phenomenal. It's amazing.
So you're just gonna skip that hair match, bro?
You know, I shouldn't have. You're right. Because, well, that was important. You're right. That was important in Edge's career too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not too much too. I mean, Angle loses that hair versus hair match. I think the reason why it's important is because the way Angle handles it afterwards, he puts on the wrestling gear and puts a wig underneath it. I think that shit's fucking hilarious.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. But then, you know, September of that year, Angle starts a feud with Benoit. This is Unforgiven. And then Angle and Benoit were teamed together at SmackDown by Stephanie McMahon. And then they actually helped to determine the tag team champions at the time. Angle became the 5th WWE Grand Slam champion, where he and Benoit won at No Mercy, defeating Edge and Rey Mysterio.
Really quick, if you go back to King of the Ring earlier in that year, it's just a note. I have to throw a Hogan fact in here. Kurt Angle was the first person to ever make Hulk Hogan tap out and submit in a match ever.
Yeah, no, it's there. You're right.
He beat him with an ankle lock in King of the Ring, and Hogan went for the leg drop. And picture Angle laying down. Hogan goes for the leg drop. Angle sits up and catches his leg when he drops the leg and turns him over into the ankle lock, and he taps Hulk Hogan, the first time in Hogan's career that he'd ever tapped to anybody or been submitted, period. Which is, yeah.
The problem with this is we want to try to push through things, but there's so many options here. We're like, well, I can't skip that.
By the way,
I think what it does is you want to talk about when you start to be a professional wrestler, to give people a couple of years to like really find their footing and find their voice and find their character and make mistakes in there. And everything we have just talked about in the last 15 minutes were his first 2 years.
Hasn't made a mistake, yes, Greg, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be responsible and to be given the rocket to do every single one of these feuds and to win all the belts that he won in the first 12 months of his career, and then the feuds he did, and then to anchor the alliance, and then Stone Cold, and then back to Edge. Plus you have his comedy chops, which never diminished him, because he could always kick your ass on as soon as he's done making fun of himself. He could all goes back in the ring and it doesn't matter. So he never weakened himself
Hogan
by
out, all that.
And for Hogan to allow him to do that on year 3 at this point,
almost year 4, he can say that I beat Hogan, but I tapped Hulk Hogan out for the only time in Hogan's career he's ever tapped out.
In my 3rd year of wrestling.
I honestly, like, I know I make fun of Hogan all the time, but I honestly love Hogan's later years, even though they're not like best. I guess you can say they're not the best. I still enjoyed them. Hogan with Taker, Biker Taker, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, all those guys. But man, Kurt Angle tapping out Hogan, man, I love it. Not because it's tapping out Hogan, but just Hogan going in there and like, I'm gonna hang with the best still, brother.
Well, an Angle, if you're gonna put him in there with anybody who can slow down and dumb down their work for Hulk, because Hulk's never been a wizard in the ring, but especially here, he was way past his prime. For Angle to get in there and understand not only who he's in the ring with, but slow down and wrestle and work Hogan's speed, so Hulk can still look like he's relevant and get in there with Angle. And you believed it, because you look at that, you're like, fucking Kurt Angle's going to destroy him. But just the way they set the matchup, he got to be Superman Hulk and do his little spots or whatever. And then, that super creative spot where, I mean, I can only imagine how they talked about it. Like, how do you want to end this tonight, brother? I'm thinking you're going to drop your legendary leg and I'm going to catch you in mid leg drop and put you in my ankle hold. And you're going to tap. Okay. Like, I mean, it's just kind of, whoa. Okay. Like,
first he was like, no, brother, there's no way that's going to happen, brother. Vince, well, if you don't, I'm going to do it for real. Yeah.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
He's all, if you don't, brother, my beer can penis is going to come out and drop on your head, brother, and crush your skull. Hogan, I'm going to actually really do that to you if you fucking don't agree to go with this.
Brother. even as a Hulk fan, I remember watching Hogan tap, going like, "Well, it's against Kurt Angle." Like I literally like just let it go.
exactly,
I'm like,
yeah,
fucking a beast. So what are you gonna do?
Well, there you go.
That you know what? Just sorry. That when we do Guilty Pleasures Part 3, Hogan's later years in WWE, after the NWO coming back in 2002, Guilty Pleasures, those are my favorite years of Hogan.
Disqualified. Moving on.
Other than NWO. Yeah, go on.
Team Angle starts in the realm of 2002.
So good.
Angle wins his third WWE Championship at Armageddon, defeating Big Show with the help of Brock Lesnar. He's in his third reign. He begins a new storyline. He gains the services of Paul Heyman and builds his stable of Team Angle. And Stephanie McMahon actually says, hey, the Big Show and Benoit are going to face each other to see who's going to face Angle for the title at Royal Rumble.
And can I jump in real quick? Like,
please.
I think it's kind of poetic that, Angle was put on the scene and he adapted so quick and he excelled so quick. And we're talking about all these accomplishments in his first 4 years. He takes two other people to be, the greatest tag team / Team Angle, Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. And they're unknowns. And they get thrust up there in a main event storyline with Angle. And how good were those guys with him? I mean, how good was the world's greatest tag team? They were fantastic. And
great.
It just shows like that, but they were all great athletes, but because Angle blazed that trail and he was so successful in such a short amount of time, they were more confident. And Angle probably in the back was like, no, I'll totally work with those two guys. They're great. Like, and so I loved it. I loved this whole period with him, mainly because Paul Heyman was writing SmackDown. But I mean, it's just so, everything was just so, they were all being used so great. And every one of them, because of Angle's influence and the level that he put himself at, they all had to perform up at this top level. And it was awesome. It was incredible to watch here. I loved SmackDown in 2003 and like 02, 03. It was just like, I don't think it got any better.
And then I think this is the time period when he actually started to have his first bout of problems and needed surgery after the WrestleMania match with Lesnar, kind of skipping forward a little bit. But I think this was the first time he took some extended time off to kind of heal. But not to go over rush past that WrestleMania match. But man, Brock and Kurt and that final spot.
Yeah, and I remember the documentary they did, a WrestleMania 19 documentary where they showed Kurt Angle like it got overshadowed because Brock fell on his fucking head doing the shooting star press, but Angle like almost collapsed, I guess, in the back, and they had to golf cart him like across the arena because like he had to go to the hospital. He was like just barely hanging on. So much, in fact, that before Mania 19, they were considering not allowing him to go out because his doctor was like, if you take one wrong fall, like you may not feel anything anymore. Like you may get paralyzed, like you're bad. And so I guess Angle just really sucked it up. And I mean, how great and physical was his match against Brock at 19?
Right.
Jesus Christ. And it just, like I said, it got overshadowed by Brock falling on his head from the shooting star press. But I mean, Angle was right there to make sure the ending didn't get lost. And Brock somehow had it left inside of him to F5 him and pin him. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, it's just like all these things, man, like, just, and think Craig saying he's taking time off to have pretty major surgery, right? Like, even if it's just like cleanup surgery to get bone spurs out and stuff, within 4.5 years that he started wrestling, he's going so hard that he's just destroying his body. And we forget the Royal Rumble 2003 match against Chris Benoit he had that, I mean, again, was better than all their previous matches, and all their previous matches were fantastic. Like, Jesus, I can't say enough like about this era and about Angle here. Like,
well, to your point, he had a pretty famous doctor, go in and do that neck surgery, repair nerve and spinal damage, calcium buildups, bone spurs.
Dr. Drew, yes.
Yeah, no.
Huh?
Dr. Hall, I'm pretty sure.
I was close.
He removed the afflicted disc and fused his vertebrae together. Instead of doing that, Angle opted for a less conventional surgery where he removed only the spurs and selected portions of the disc. The alternative surgery reduced Angle's rehabilitation time from 1 year to 3 months, so he can get back on the road, as they would say, right? So Angle returns as a face in June, shortly after returning, Angle defeated Lesnar and the Big Show in a triple threat match at Vengeance, which, by the way, is one of my favorite matches.
Yeah.
I think this was the best Big Show was ever produced. And it's a Paul Heyman episode.
Paul Heyman. Woo.
Yes. All day long.
Nathan Jones, Matt Morgan, all of them.
These triple threat matches that Heyman produced, and this is like the triple threat of all triple threats, is what makes you believe that it can work. Big Show, Lesnar, and Angle, in my opinion, are some of the best triple threat matches you will ever see in any era. And Paul Heyman's a big part of that. So, but I digress. He regains the championship for a fourth time already. We're not even 5 years in. Okay. During this time, Lesnar seemed to become an ally to Angle, but he was secretly working with McMahon on a plot against him. He turns on him in a steel cage match between him and McMahon, where Angle was the guest referee. He never tolerated, Lesnar said he never tolerated him losing the belt at Vengeance. So, insane. After retaining the championship against Lesnar at SummerSlam by an ankle lock, he dropped the title to Lesnar in an Iron Man match at SmackDown on September 18th.
I want to say that was Pro Wrestling Illustrated Match of the Year. And that was Match of the Year.
The Iron Man match?
It was fucking great.
Yeah.
So good.
And then Angle forms a 5-man team to rival Lesnar's team at Survivor Series. And Angle's team ends up victorious. And even though Angle was eliminated by Lesnar, his team comes out victorious, which is pretty cool. So then Angle gets involved with Viva La Raza in a feud with Eddie Guerrero. Any comments before we start on this one?
No, I mean, it was all par for the course. It was literally building his legacy over the whole time that, in that summer and the whole 2003 year was just like.
And by the way, is Guerrero also forming his legacy pretty much simultaneously?
Well, and Angle was a big part of that. I mean, Guerrero took a little while. He was always great as a mechanic in the ring. Guerrero was. He was fantastic. But Guerrero was getting his character down here, and his feud with Kurt Angle launched Guerrero into greatness and on the main stage. And of course, you get someone like, again, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh yeah, well, he's in there against Benoit, Jess, so of course he's going to look just as good. And look who he's in there with. Oh, he's in there against Guerrero. Of course he's going to look good. He's in there against so-and-so. Yeah, but how many times have we seen Oil and Water? How many times have you seen big names go together and they don't work? And and Angle was making everything work. He's like a true champion.
I'll tell you this. If people were saying that after the first 3 or 4 years of his career, then they obviously weren't paying attention to the first 3 or 4 years of his career.
But you know what I mean? Like, a lot of people.
Angle makes it work all the time. Doesn't matter.
But you know what I mean? Like when you talk about people during like a boom period, or whatever, like they always say, well, I mean, yeah, of course they had legendary matches because look at their, of course, Flair and Steamboat was good. Look at the two names involved. I'm like, but that could easily shit the bed so easy. You have no idea how that could shit the bed. Like Flair and Steamboat had to understand each other, and they knew to Angle like a true champion, like the old NWA champion used to travel. He had to adapt to and not just have a passable match. He made sure this match will steal the show. And
well, you know what?
Every night,
I gotta say, he was the Bret Hart of that era after the Attitude Era.
Yeah, that was the Bret Hart. That was
honestly,
that's a world champion mentality, like right there.
When can you tell me when he had an oil and water match?
Never.
We were talking about it earlier. I can't think of one. I really can't think of one.
So anyone that thinks
Daniel
Pooter,
I
have no idea what they're talking about.
Whoa, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Calm down, you son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch. But we got to talk about Eddie Guerrero before we get to Mr. Pewter. So Eddie defeats Lesnar at No Way Out for the championship, and Angle defeats Cena to become that number one contender for Guerrero's title at WrestleMania 20. I have to believe there's going to be a soundbite put in here somewhere, guys, but I have to tell you, we all know how this turned out. Angle in our minds is destroying Guerrero throughout the match, and it's one of the greatest. I lie, I cheat, I steal. Yes. Just the boots getting loose for 10 minutes, and finally, and like the third or fourth ankle lock, Guerrero's able to pull the boot loose and pin Angle and just steal a victory and get out of there. One of the I actually have I don't know if you guys know this. I have a shirt Guerrero Angle WrestleMania 20 because I
know you do.
I'm that fond of it. I mean, I still have it. I still
A
wear
little
it.
footnote.
Yeah,
A little footnote on everything. Kurt Angle's facial expressions.
Yeah.
Is it
And I
what?
think
His facial expressions.
especially when he lost.
Yeah.
When
Yes,
when he
especially
lost
when he loses.
and he's holding the boot in his hand, he's like, "What the fuck?" Like you could just tell, like,
Or anytime in a match where like it's a grueling fucking wrestling fucking match, and when he pins somebody and they kick out, and the facial expressions that he shows, it's like,
Oh, he's great.
I believe this guy is trying to beat this guy and he can't get it done, and he's showing the emotion in his face right now. Like his facial expressions are probably I would say top 3 in the business. Honestly.
That's a
Angle
great
can tell a
point.
Story.
That really is a great point about his reactions, and like everything was a battle, and he looked exhausted and his grueling, almost like Roman Reigns kind of reminds me of that too. Like
Yes, Roman
the-
Reigns is actually good. I mean,
the exhaustion on
yeah.
his face, like really, yeah. What a great point. Just another thing that he did that was incredible.
Of
and
so
the
many.
ending
Another thing in his
to
arsenal,
Mania
right?
20, you know, when the boot thing with Guerrero, one of the
Yes.
most creative endings at a WrestleMania match I've seen, and it was another great way to not damage Angle in the sense of, you know, Benoit Guerrero, you just had to get creative to beat him because from the beginning, like Dave said, it was clear that Angle was dominant and he was better. He was better than him. So how in the world is this, if this challenger is besting the world champion right in front of our face, obviously he should go over. He's the best. No, the champion outsmarted him and caught the quick pin, which is the only way you can get away from a machine like Angle. And you still see Angle in the ring fuming, which he would have probably fought another 20 minutes after that because that's what a machine he was. But he was just so pissed he got caught and he had the boot in his hand. Like, what the hell? Like, you know, you could just tell it was just all perfectly done. That's all character work. Not to mention they had an amazing 15-minute physical awesome match between two great fucking pro wrestlers. Like, yeah.
And you have to wonder what they would have done going forward, because I think that feud might have gone a little longer. But because Angle has to go in back under the knife because of more neck problems, he wasn't scheduled to return to action for quite a long time. So he had to return as general manager. So what we see really at that point is a lot of Guerrero and JBL. So it's kind of like that one of those manufactured heels to come in and face him. Still not bad. There's a lot of great stuff there.
BRB.
I know people shit on JBL a lot, but there was a lot of great stuff there
Correct.
that you should go back and check out. And it
Not
just
about good stuff,
propels-
but shitting on JBL. Correct. You're correct.
you should shit on that, but you should also understand that it propelled Guerrero to greater heights, is what I'm trying to say.
And correct.
So-
And shitting on JBL's also.
And that's all good. You can do that all you want.
Okay.
So, Angle continued his feud with Guerrero throughout 2004, and then he cost Guerrero the championship against JBL in that bull rope match at the Great American Bash.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff.
I'm glad we're covering this shit in an Angle
In the work
episode.
finish. Angle came down in the ring. He showed a replay where JBL's shoulder hit the corner, before Guerrero's hand, blah, blah, blah. Angle was later fired by Vince McMahon as GM in July of 2004 on an episode of SmackDown after McMahon discovered he was faking his handicap status and put him in a match against Eddie Guerrero at SummerSlam. And then at SummerSlam, guess what? Angle defeats Guerrero by submission. I guess you can write this stuff, right? And then on September 9th, Angle fights Guerrero in a lumberjack match, ended in a no contest when a brawl broke out. Big Show then made his return, attacking them both. And then this led to a match at No Mercy where Angle eventually lost to the Big Show. There's a lot of work going on in 2004. So this is where it gets interesting. Craig, you brought this up earlier. We all know Angle's been on 2 surgeries. He's hurt at this point. It's bad. Even though it's bad, they're like, well, we're going to have a tough enough segment that's actually on live TV. And even though it's on live TV, guess what? They haven't really scripted anything. Why don't you just go and shoot on these guys? You're Kurt Angle. You're a badass. And guess what? Is Kurt Angle going to back down from that? Probably not. We've heard about this on several podcasts, right? So, Angle challenged the finalists to a squat thrust competition. Chris Naraki wins that competition, and that prize wins him a shoot match against Angle. Angle quickly took Naraki down with the guillotine choke, but Naraki managed to make it to the ropes forcing Angle to break the hold, and he took him to a double-leg takedown, legitimately breaking his ribs. People forget that. And then he got him on another guillotine choke, and then he pinned him in the process. After that happened, this is where it all gets sideways, even though there's ribs already broken. You want to talk about going sideways. And Angle decides to go, who else wants to come in? Who else wants to do it? And then down there, Peter's like, I want to go. I'll go. He literally raised his hand, and Angle's like, get your ass in here, right? Pewter is a professional mixed martial artist, and he actually wrestled for position. Angle, even though he takes Pewter down, Pewter locks Angle in a Kimura lock. And with Pewter on his back and Angle's arms locked in the Kimura, Angle pushed Pewter's shoulders down, and the referee was quick at least to go 1, 2, 3 on that. But if anything had ever happened that quickly, otherwise, Pewter probably would have either submitted him or he would have broken a bone on Angle in the process. And in that setup, once the pin was handled, Pewter tried to shake his hand, and Angle gives him the riot act.
He talks shit to him, and that shows you the difference between a pro and someone who just want to be a dick. I get it. I get it, but Angle gets it, and Pewter doesn't.
He's got a key lock there, Pewter, trying to get a key lock on Angle before he was hanging out to the corner. Shoulders are down, and this one is over. Daniel Pewter eliminated by the Olympic gold medalist, Kurt Angle, and so much for the UFC.
I think Pewter he's always kind of gotten a bad rap. I think Pewter's gotten a bad rap. He did kind of come off as a douchey, and he had the Tito Ortiz blonde hair, which instantly made you not really care for him. But I mean, Angle did ask.
But I get what he does.
I think they told everybody, we're going to kind of go out there and shoot a little bit. What Pewter said in one of the shoot interviews he did was they did, before even the squat thrust challenge, before they had a segment where it was like a pasta eating contest or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, you could tell, he's like, I picked up early, because we all knew that Angle was going to be
trying to get us. Yeah. They were trying to get us lethargic.
They were going to they're going to get me bloated with pasta, and then they're going to squat thrust us to death, and then Angle's going to easily mow through us. But he's like, he purposely lost the pasta competition because he knew if I get a chance, I'm not going to be bloated, and he purposely lost the squat thrust because he's like, I'm not going to blow myself up. So in the chance that they do ask if anybody else wants to go, which Angle did ask, Pewter's like, I'm ready to go. He wasn't bloated, and he wasn't blown up from the squat thrust. So he did it. He did, yes. But it's a competition. He thought that you have to be smart on your feet, and he was. And he caught Angle. Nobody told him that Angle was going to be actually touching him. So when the whole thing was improv in the middle of the ring, he was just like, okay, I'm going to defend myself. I'm a legit fighter. I can fight for my back and put submission holds on people. I'm going to do that. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they're hoping that somebody could tap Kurt Angle and become the next big star. And so he did it. And then they're yelling at him in the back and shit. And he's like, what? You put me in this position. So I will defend him on this. I know Pewter's come across as not so good. But I think that's the locker room and the company shitting on him. And
because he probably had to think this is what Vince wants. He wants someone to fucking rise up and
grab that brass ring.
Of course.
So I agree with both. I agree with both sides, honestly.
Yeah, both guys should have never really been put in this position. You think they would have learned from this kind of thing through all the years, from Brawl for All, et cetera, et cetera. Just don't do it.
And Bill Brasky.
To put these guys and to make it real, it would have been awful, and it would have been bad news for him to tap out to Kurt. It would have ruined Kurt. It kind of did kill Pewter, I guess, but it shouldn't have happened. And it's just one of the only stories of where Kurt maybe was responsible for escalating it when he maybe should have not, but was probably encouraged to do so. This is just one of the moments where,
and if you want to take it even further to blame, it's why were all the other tough enough guys out there if he wasn't supposed to call them out? If the winner of that whole bullshit was the only one supposed to, he should have been the only one out there. But so many things. It's like the perfect storm is how I always describe the situation. And I'll read you some excerpts real quick. And I'm not a big fan of this guy, but I'll read you Dave Meltzer's excerpts on it. He said, it was real. If you don't follow fighting, Pewter had Angle locked in the Kimura, or key lock as Taz called it. Although Taz didn't let on that the move was fully executed. Not only was Angle not getting out of the move, but most MMA fighters would have tapped already. Well, Angle couldn't tap for obvious reasons. I'm just reading the quote. The ref counted to 3, even though Peter's shoulders weren't fully down, trying to end the thing, because the reality was Angle would have been in surgery had it gone a few seconds longer, or had Peter not given up in the hold.
This is why I agree with both sides, though. The other side is maybe will Peter play along with like Kurt Angle did, and he'll set aside his MMA background and he'll lose and he'll take it like a champ, and then he'll go on from there. Like, that's the other side. No, that's the other side. No, that's the other side, though. That really is the other side, though. Just like Angle, I'm not going to lose, right? Ha, see you later, pal. 2 years later, I get it now. That can still be the same thing. That can still be the same thing.
It still can be. The easier way to describe it is there's a lot of ego on both sides.
That's why I agree with both sides.
Peter deliberately did not do the challenges the way he was supposed to.
No. Good on him.
A lot of people told Angle, stay away from this guy. He did not eat the pasta. And Angle was like, when he beat the first guy, he's like, I'm on a high for like 2 seconds. Who else wants to come in here? It's a shitload of bad decisions on so many sides.
On live TV.
And you see what you see. Angle couldn't get enough of himself for that.
But what I'm saying is, I agree with both sides.
They should have never had shoot matches on SmackDown to begin with.
There's
so many things, right? Yeah.
I agree with Peter why he did what he did, but then you also got to agree on the other side in that, like, well, we want to see if he's going to do what Kurt Angle did. Kurt Angle came in thinking, like, I'm never going to lose, right? Ha, see you later, pal. And then he came in, I get it now. Maybe the other side wanted to see if Peter was going to do the same thing. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, it's a valid point.
I'm not talking about your point. I'm talking about the time. Just getting a little long here.
I have a Vince McMahon Funko Pop right here, and he's like, you know what, Dave? Shut the fuck up.
All right, sorry. You take it.
No, just go ahead.
Oh, I thought you wanted to take it. All right.
Go ahead.
Let's skip ahead a little bit. We'll go into the championship and departure in 05 and 06. So at Royal Rumble, he being Angle, he doesn't win in the triple threat match against Big Show and JBL. He took part in the Royal Rumble match itself that same night. He was eliminated in quick fashion by Shawn Michaels. God, that's so dumb. Causing Angle to return to the ring to eliminate Michaels in retaliation. So basically, we're going into a Michaels Angle, I guess you'd say, right? So Angle defeats Michaels in a inter-promotional match at WrestleMania 21, and he wins the PWI Match of the Year award for that. So they got a hard on for Michaels too, apparently, if y'all didn't notice. So yeah, sure, why not? And then on April 14th, the SmackDown.
No, that was that match is still probably to this day one of the greatest Mania matches ever. Yeah, and then they had a nice rematch too. Right after that.
Yeah,
which is really good as well. They tore the house down. Why are you shitting?
Dave disagrees.
I usually shit on Michaels.
I disagree, Dave.
You can shit on it. I'm just 58 seconds. I'm sorry, 58 minutes, 47 seconds in. Anyway.
I don't know what that means.
In the same episode, Angle confronts fellow tournament entrant Booker T and his wife Sharmell. Y'all remember Sharmell, don't you?
Yeah.
And then she predicted Sharmell would win that tournament. And then on April 21st of SmackDown, Angle and JBL interfered in a tournament between Booker and Big Show, and that renders it a no contest. That creates a fatal four-way match against the remaining tournament entrants the next week, which Layfield wins. JBL. Over those ensuing weeks, Angle sexually harassed Sharmell. That's not a good life for Angle. I am just going to skip through this. There was a lot of claims that Sharmell had done things to him, apparently. And at Judgment Day, Booker defeats Angle. And then on June 2nd, the SmackDown, Angle defeats Booker and Sharmell in a 2-on-1 handicap match after pinning Sharmell in a lucrative position. I'll leave it there. Angle would then lose to Booker on the June 9th episode of SmackDown, and that ends their feud there. So Angle appears in WCW One Night Stand as a Crusader, and at the end of One Night Stand, he and other Crusaders would engage in a brawl with the alumni led by Steve Austin, in which other Crusaders were soundly beaten, right?
Yeah, and this is around the time where they brought ECW back as its own brand. And so they
Yeah.
actually drafted people from the main roster to support the brand, Kurt Angle being one of them, which a lot of people thought that of kind of a demotion. Benoit was one of the ones who was demoted as well. Or I don't want to say demoted. That's a word that everybody else used, but he was also drafted to ECW as well. So you had Angle and Benoit going to ECW, which they could have easily like revisited their feud. The world had other plans for Chris Benoit, and also Angle at this time was very hurt, and he was pretty addicted to pills. And so this became a point where they just couldn't really run Angle in ECW. I guess legitly when Paul Heyman was interviewed afterwards, he legitly wanted to push Angle and make him like one of the top guys in ECW. And he was really going to not waste him and use him. In Paul Heyman's mind, he's like, you gave me a diamond. Like, so I'm going to push Angle as hard as I can. But unfortunately, Angle wanted to take time off. WWF wouldn't let him do it. So therefore, Angle just pretty much quit and asked to get out of his contract.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with Eugene here, right? He challenges Cena at Unforgiven. Yeah, a lot of stuff with Cena. There's a lot of work in this setup, right? Angle challenged him for the title at Elimination Chamber match, which also was with Shawn Michaels, Kane, Carlito, Chris Masters. There's still a lot of work going on, right? And then on January 13th, Angle returned to SmackDown as a surprise entrance in a 20-man battle royal for the vacant WWF Championship. He won by last eliminating Mark Henry, and he retained that title at Royal Rumble, right? So shortly after the match, The Undertaker made his return, and Angle retained the title against Undertaker after a controversial finish. He pinned Taker while locked in a triangle choke. So Angle and Undertaker had a highly acclaimed match here.
We know what that goes to, right?
What's that?
I said we know what that leads to, right? Rock versus Angle versus Taker. Vengeance. 2002, bud.
2000, what?
2002, Vengeance.
We're like in, what are you talking about?
We're in 05 right now.
We're in 05, bro.
Sorry.
What? I was like, so confused.
I tried to help you and fast forward to the ECW things, but you won't.
Sorry.
But you
sorry.
Forget about that. I'm gonna keep it in. I don't care.
So I was just trying to catch up to where Jess was. So that's just it. Angle was drafted to the. I mean, you kind of missed that another title there, Jess. I was just trying to catch it up. So Angle was drafted to that ECW brand, like Jess said, and he required the name the Wrestling Machine. Wears a mouth guard. He's squashing opponents. He issued an open challenge on One Night Stand. Randy Orton accepts that. Angle defeats him. Then he loses in a rematch at Vengeance. He appears sporadically on WWE TV throughout mid-2006, but he was granted an early release, as Jess had said, because of health reasons. I'm telling you right now, Jess, they knew that he was addicted to pills. There's a lot of issues here. I don't know where they got the information from, but they offered him, rehab, and he said no. I'll just leave. Right? Am I wrong? This is where it gets really tough.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it did. He just didn't want. He didn't want any part of it, and he just wanted to get out. If they were gonna, he basically was just like, "Give me some time off. I just need a little bit of time off, and I'll be fine." And they're like, "No, you actually have a problem." And he's just like, "Okay, fuck you. No, I don't. Let me out of my contract then if you don't want to give me some time off." And then they just let him go.
Yeah, and this is where it starts with TNA Wrestling.
For them, you could say what you want about the company, but for them for them to let him go and be like, "Fine, go." Not because there was no other promotion as big as them, so it's not like he could go anywhere and make a splash per se. But like it for them to let him go, there must have been an issue because they were letting go of probably the greatest wrestler in the world. And, it's like, well, they had a lot of other talent. Don't get me wrong. So it's not like it hurt them so bad.
If you think about what's happened in the past couple of decades and then recently too, how many wrestlers have died under the watch of quote unquote wrestling, and even VKM, even though he'll take no responsibility. And then you have Guerrero, on his way, soon after that, you have Chris Benoit killing his family. I think at this point they're like, "You're addicted to pills, bro. You need to like fix this, or you gotta go." And it wasn't. I know he's the best wrestler in the world, but there was all these. If there was nothing else going on, they probably would have just let it go. They wouldn't have said shit. Let's be. I mean, if you're gonna be real, and let's be even more real, he probably wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, is that fair to say?
And he did. Yes, it is very fair to say. And he did get his little time off. He signed with TNA, and I'm gonna yada yada through TNA, not because I'm only yada yadaing from time. I feel that his stint in TNA cemented his legacy as, I mean, I'm going to save this to the end about my opinion, but as one of the greatest wrestlers to ever live. Yes. And if anyone's like, "Oh, bullshit, TNA was a small promotion," stop. No. Listen.
Angle.
It's not about ratings per se at this point. When WCW got bought out, WWF's the biggest show. We get it, or WWE, whatever you want to call it. Vince Land's the biggest show. And he not only did he prove himself on that stage, but he goes to this other promotion, which wasn't nearly as structured as the WWE was, and had these young talent that came after, like a generation after Angle. And so Angle had to get in the ring with these young guys. He could have easily got into this promotion and phoned it in. I'm Kurt Angle from the WWF. Just use my fame. I'm going to phone it in. I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to beat that guy. He gets in there and he tears the house down with Samoa Joe. He tears the house down with AJ Styles. He tears the house down with Desmond Wolfe. Christopher Daniels, Desmond Wolfe,
a lot of guys.
But he has to wrestle their style, which is the most important thing, which is the most impressive thing. And they didn't have to slow down for him. He went in there and adapted to AJ's quick style, who was this new generation of wrestling. It's the way the wrestlers were moving. Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, like I said, they all had this different, faster speed of wrestling. You know, high spot. I get it. I know some people don't like it, but Angle had to adapt, and he taught them. And you can't tell me that they didn't learn from being in there with him. Not only that, again, he was this guy that came from the other promotion that could have phoned it in. Kevin Nash, other people that, you know, just came in there to do that, but he didn't. He not only got in there and not only said like, I'm going to fucking go with you guys. Like, you know, Daniels, Joe, AJ, all you guys, I'm going to go with you guys. Desmond Wolfe, that was like one of the greatest matches I've seen in a long time up to that point. His match with Desmond Wolfe was fantastic against a guy who was just, can you imagine being someone young like Desmond Wolfe and like you get in there and he was talented anyway.
Like
everybody knows about his story. Well, not everybody actually. I take that back. They don't. Nigel was awesome. But to get in there with Kurt Angle where he's like, this is all I want. I want to get in there with someone of this caliber to like show the world I can wrestle too. And to keep up with him, I'm more impressed with his TNA run than the last couple of years he was in WWE, because he showed everybody that I am a pro wrestler, that I really am good at this. I really know what I'm doing. And I'm going to get in there with guys that are half my age. Well, not quite half my age, but 10, 15 years younger that are on the next wave of the way professional wrestling looks and the way the guys move in the ring and the way they book matches. And he excelled at it. I cannot praise his TNA run enough, because he was so fucking unselfish. He was so amazing in there with guys that were, like I said, so much younger than him and from a totally different generation. That defines a champion. That defines great wrestlers, like all the praise that Flair got when he was NWA champion, traveling around all those different territories, all those different styles, having to slow down for guys like Lex, having to make new guys like Sting. This is what he did here, and how people don't see that that's the same as what Flair did or what Michaels did. You're
could be better.
You're fucking blind.
It's been what we've been talking about throughout this match, the fact that Desmond Wolfe has had an answer for everything that Kurt's thrown at him.
Look at Angle. Angle now with a Juji Katami. It's a side armbar, Juji Katami. And Wolfe trying to block it with that grip.
Perfect defense by Desmond.
Angle. He's got a side triangle choke.
So I gotta say, so obviously I went to get a beer when you guys were talking about the 2002 area. I thought you guys were talking about Angle versus Rock versus Undertaker after he beat the Undertaker. I have to say, man, I hate to say it's a guilty pleasure because it shouldn't be, but I get it now. Like, so I fucked up. I'm gonna admit this right here. I fucked up. I came in thinking like you guys were talking about Angle versus Taker versus Rock.
Okay,
obviously, you guys were talking about 2005 ECW Angle versus Randy Orton. That is a good match, and I hate to say that it's a guilty pleasure, just because I don't think people get that was a great match, and people think it's a guilty pleasure. But Angle versus Orton was fucking great, and then obviously after that he went to TNA and everything. But I'm just admitting I fucked up earlier when I said, "Oh, you guys are talking about Angle."
Wow, you've admitted it 3 times. No, I have to. I'll let you pass. I have to. Admitted it 3 times.
So Craig, I don't know. I don't know how much
Craig they admit that as a guilty pleasure.
I don't know how much did you follow him in TNA at all, Craig?
Yeah.
No.
From ECW to TNA.
No, I did not follow. And it blew my mind to realize that he spent longer time in TNA than he did WWFE. He spent 10 years in TNA and 8 with WWE.
10 years.
I mean, and so you add that and you really thought you'd never see him again, how he fell out with Vince and how he would freely discuss the ending and what happened. And what
never say never, pal.
I mean, what an amazing treat to kind of see him have one last small run and to see him in the Hall of Fame and to see him come back. And we were there at WrestleMania when he was announced.
Now look at this. Is he a bud? Joe's gonna fight it off with everything he's got.
Can he get to the ropes? Is he going to tap? He's just this close. You can see just inches away, but Angle pulls him back.
He's reaching for it. He's reaching it. Joe just taps out. Gentlemen, your winner,
Well, and it's hard too during the
great.
TNA run. That's when he started racking up the DUIs too. And like, we were talking to Dave and I were talking off the mic before we hit record, and we were all talking about, I remember distinctly during this time, we were like, we're going to read that Angle's the next to die. It's going to happen. And because
it really bothered us, by the way. It wasn't like we were making fun of it. We're like, oh my God, he's going to be the next one.
Yeah. He wasn't admitting he had a problem. He just kept feeling, if you just give me a week off to, I'm with TNA now. Wait,
not even that.
I'll be fine.
Am I wrong to think so in TNA, didn't he crash in his Lincoln, right?
Yes.
Lincoln SUV?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. At that point, I was
here's the thing,
I don't
too.
want to think that.
This is all along lines where we'd see 50, 60 wrestlers dying in like a 2-3 year span, whether they're at the lowest of the independent cards all the way up to even major WWE, storylines. And, Guerrero and Benoit were obviously one of the highest ones of those time frames. And when we started to hear about Kurt Angle and his 4th DUI and then hearing rumors like 50 pills a day, we're like, oh my God, he's going to be next. We really felt that. And we were really, we were not making fun of it. We're like, he's going to be next. And we're like, this fucking sucks.
It's kind of like Xbox, how he said, Xbox said, I thought we were going to get that call one day that Scott Hall died. Like, that's the same thing with Angle. Like,
they all thought
I remember all of us thinking that too.
And Craig shed light. I forgot it was 10 fucking years. It's a long time with TNA.
Yeah.
He did so much stuff. He was general manager. He did all. He got himself together. He went through a divorce, like legitly. Karen Angle,
which by the
his
way,
wife,
Karen Angle. Yeah.
How's Karen doing? Did you get her digits? Did you scratch those down?
Who, Karen Angle?
Here's where that
yeah. Like, you wanted to.
Oh my God. Yeah, she was a hottie to trotty. But and then what was a cool thing in TNA was, even though she had an affair with Jeff Jarrett behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Angle finds out about it. They divorced, they split, and then fucking Angle's still cool as shit. Him and Jeff Jarrett had a fucking great feud. They had an awesome storyline. Exactly. And they had great matches. And like, I'm like, God, like, it sucks that all this happened, but Jesus, like, he was still sharp. He could still get in there and wrestle a good match, even fighting all the demons. But fast forwarding, because it is long, he did general manager. He did start to clean himself up in TNA.
He
even had a little stint with the
Japan for 2 years.
Yeah, he did a little version. He won the IWGP championship. It was like a different version of the IWGP.
Sure.
He won that too.
Right?
Yeah.
He does a little Lucha Libre for a year, independent circuit for another year, and then finally he comes back to WWE in 2017.
Which is great.
And that's when he's inducted into the Hall of Fame, January 26th, which we were all like so happy that he was there, that he was actually there and someone wasn't giving his speech for him. That's, to me, is one of the best things ever about this story, is that Angle not only was there for his own Hall of Fame speech, but he's still here today, right? So, and John Cena actually inducted him into those Hall of Fame ceremonies, which is good. And then he made his first appearance nearly 11 years later, when he was appointed general manager on Raw by Vince McMahon. And then Angle, Corey Graves informs Angle about some scandalous information. that was sent to him about Angle, and then Angle tells Graves, "This is true. It could ruin me." And they had the whole, oh gosh, what was the storyline with Jason Jordan, which
father son
that,
thing.
That could have been great, but then unfortunately, Jason Jordan becomes
Poor
injured
Jason Jordan,
and
man.
can't continue. Yeah, that's a rough thing. I watched the match live where he hits his head the way he does, and
we got to meet him right after that, man.
It's pretty much done
in New Orleans.
Yeah. Oh, so you
sad.
did, yeah.
Yeah.
And this jumps to Craig's point. Joe, Craig, and I were live in New Orleans with Cuz. Cuz was there with his wife on their honeymoon for WrestleMania 34, where Angle returned to in-ring action for the first time in I don't know how many years, where he tagged with Ronda Rousey in her debut match against Triple H and Stephanie. I can tell you there from being live that match tore the house down.
Yes, it did.
I know that there were other things that happened at Mania, but for a moment, silently, when Angle came out, I got a little emotional because he meant a lot to. He still means a lot to me. But I mean, like
all of us, I think,
to see him come back, and again, I'm glad they made a big deal out of him coming back. But I felt back then they don't trumpet him as much as they do the Michaelses and the Flairs and the Austins and the Rocks. And I was just like, I wish they did. So I thought it was special that I got to see him live. Come back at WrestleMania, and it was cool for me to watch him walk down that aisle and hear everyone chant "You suck," and it was an awesome moment for me. I'm sure he got a lot of ovation, don't get me wrong, but I felt, Ronda Rousey kind of overshadowed him because she was debuting, and it's like it was a whole thing. I just felt like I kind of wish I got to see him have one more singles match where he lit up the world like the old Kurt Angle used to. We never got that, unfortunately, but this was the next best thing because this match was great. And even though I know it was more about Ronda, like I said, in my heart as a wrestling fan, it was more about Angle for me because I loved watching him come down and got to say I saw that. I don't.
And then there's those sporadic appearances. He wins a battle royal, eliminating Baron Corbin under a mask as the Conquistador.
Oh yeah, the Conquistadors.
Qualifying for the World Cup or Crown Jewel, and then Dolph Ziggler defeats Angle in a cup tournament, and then this is where I thought it was big when, for a spot in Survivor Series, he loses to Drew McIntyre in dominating fashion, and that's where I know I talked to you guys, and I'm like, see, this is where it gets real. He gets it. He's always gotten it. And it's like, it's time for young kids to move forward. And Drew McIntyre getting a win over Kurt Angle is so big here. And I know it's a long time ago, but in realm of wrestling, but McIntyre's win over Angle is really big to push him into his world championship dominance that he's currently working with after WrestleMania. So it's a big deal, right? So there's a lot of matches like that. And then finally, Angle announces he's going to retire at WrestleMania 35. He chooses Baron Corbin as his final opponent. And then he embarks on that farewell tour. He's beaten a ton of people. He beats Cruz, Gable, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. And then he finally loses to Baron Corbin. Again, putting the right people over for the right reasons.
I think they botched Angle's, the farewell.
Yeah,
there.
they did.
I thought that it could have been better.
I agree.
I feel that Cena should have been his final opponent because that's super poetic.
There you go.
And
that makes sense. Maybe it's not the loss. It's the person.
He may have been just a big fan of Baron Corbin, and he's like, you know what?
I'm sure Dave's right. I'm sure that we the story we saw on television, we were bullshit. Angle should get to go out in a blaze of glory, and I'm sure behind the scenes Angle was like, I'm putting over whoever you want because I should be. And that, again, it just speaks more about his character. So, yeah, I mean, I can say I thought it fell flat for me, which I did, but maybe you're right. Maybe behind the scenes, it was all for the right reasons. And you never know. Maybe Vince was like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I'm going to lose to whoever you want me to lose to because I think I should. From a guy who started out and said, I'm never going to lose because I'm an Olympic gold medalist, to going out like that, looking at the lights more often than not, that speaks a lot about him and about, again, that he always, once he understood, he always understood about pro wrestling. Once it clicked.
Yeah, once it clicked. And it clicked at a very early time, and which is why he was so successful so quickly. I'm just going to run through the accolades real quick, guys. If we could start with amateur wrestling, he won the Canadian Canadian Cup Championship in 1990, Collegiate High School, Freshman of the Year 1988, Pennsylvania State Wrestling Champion in 87. He's the FILA Junior World Freestyle Champion in 88. and gold medal in freestyle wrestling in 1995. He's in the International Sports Hall of Fame in 2016. He's a National Amateur Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2001. NCAA Division I All-American 1990 through 92, and the Division I champion in 90 and 92 different years. He is the Summer Olympics gold medal in freestyle wrestling in heavyweight division in 96. USA Wrestling, he's the freestyle champion 87, senior freestyle in 95, 96. Wrestling Hall of Fame 2001. The greatest shoot wrestler of all time has that accolade. Then we get into professional wrestling. He in the Cauliflower Alley Club. Eventually, he's a Future Legend Award. That's pretty cool. 2000. Inoki Genome Federation. He's the IWGP Heavyweight Championship one time. Class of 2012. Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame for Luthez. Special honoree in 2015. He's the PPW Heavyweight Championship one time. There, Pro Wrestling Illustrated Comeback of the Year 2003. Feud of the Year 2000 versus Triple H. Feud of the Year 2003, 2007. Most Inspirational Wrestler of the Year 2001. Match of the Year 2003. Match of the Year 2005. Most Hated Wrestler 2000. Most Popular Wrestler 2000. So 3 years apart, he wins the Most Hated Wrestler and then the Most Popular Wrestler. Who else can do this? Unbelievable stuff. Rookie of the Year 2000, Wrestler of the Year 2003. He's number 1 in PWI in 2001. In TNA, he was a 6-time World Heavyweight Champion. He was a Tag Team Champ twice with Sting and AJ Styles. He was an X Division Championship once, King of the Mountain twice, TNA Hall of Fame in 2013. Triple Crown champion in TNA, and then now you get to WWE and WCW. World Championship Wrestling Championship one time, United States one time, Heavyweight Championship one time, WWE Tag Team Champion one time, WWE Euro 4 times championship there, Euro Champion one time, Hardcore Champion one time, Intercontinental Champion one time, King of the Ring in 2000, WWE Tag Team Championship Tournament with Chris Benoit, he's a winner. And he's a Hall of Famer of the class of 2017. He's the 10th Triple Crown champion. He's a 5th Grand Slam champion. And by the Wrestling Observer, he has the best gimmick, best on interviews, best technical wrestler, feud of the year with Brock Lesnar, match of the year with Chris Benoit, most improved in 2000, most outstanding wrestler from 01 to 03, the reader's favorite wrestler, wrestler of the year in 2002, wrestler of the decade from 2000 to 2009, and he has received the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame class of 2004. I'm tired after all that. I mean, holy shit. All you got to do is list it, right? I mean, this kind of, who has this kind of resume?
There's no way you're a professional wrestling fan if you're not a fan of Kurt Angle from the time he debuted till the time he retired. Just gonna say that.
I can't explain how you're not. I don't get it. I don't know how anybody could go back and watch his matches ever in 20 years, 30 years ago. God damn, that guy's good. God, he tore the house down. And the accolades prove it. I mean, obviously everyone around him, like, this guy has to be on top. Everywhere he went, he dominated. And dominated is not holding the title for 7 years. That's not how it works. It's taking it, losing it, being able to save face and come back and do it again. Sorry, Craig, you were going to say something.
3 days ago, he was released with the cuts with a lot of other guys, and that was followed 30 seconds later with a text from Jess saying, "Well, we're doing the legacy of Kurt Angle." And I think if that's
exactly what happened,
if that's not a testament to the importance of the guy, and if we can pay respect in our own little tiny way, it's jumping on and quickly putting together. And Jess and Cuz are going to be doing a lot of editing and putting this out as quick as possible. For Kurt, I mean, he's I hope, and I think this last run with WWE helps his legacy. I think Jess's point about him not being trumpeted is very, very true. And whether that comes from how it ended and whether he held the torch for another federation for a decade, and whether I didn't realize that he had so many feuds and so many matches with Chris Benoit. And I don't know whether that hurt him. So much of his career was fighting with Benoit. I think that hurts him. But I think moving forward, the last 2 years can only help increase his name when it comes to Mount Rushmores and the legacy and getting in that montage of WWE.
Does he approach the Mount Rushmore to you at this point, guys? Since Craig brought it up, we talked about top 5, but Mount Rushmore stuff.
I mean, you talk about people use the generic phrase greatest wrestler of all time. I think it's so hard to define that because it could be drawing power, it could be charisma, it could be a combination of both. It could be, and we all know that like the most well-known wrestlers like the Hulks, the Rocks, the Austins, they struck a chord with the casual fan and mainstream media. And they had a lot of charisma. They didn't necessarily do the flippity doodahs or whatever. They weren't even necessarily the best workers per se. But if you're just talking about professional wrestling, and WWF actually coined this phrase, greatest in-ring performer, and they always flatter Michaels and Flair with that. And I'm not saying that they were not or do not deserve to be on those distinctions, but the way they plan it out is Flair was the greatest in-ring performer of all time, and then Michaels came and now he is, and Michaels is the greatest ever. Kurt Angle is the greatest in-ring performer to ever wrestle ever. That's it.
Wow.
There's nobody else. There's nobody else that can do what he did, that can never have a bad match with anybody. From the first 3 years we talked about his career, the first 3 years, he can retire then and be like, I did everything because he did.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he did. And like it, but he kept going. He went to another promotion that never had a chance to be bigger than WWE and still got in there with guys and put in work and worked with the younger guys to make them better, no matter what his personal demons were. And he had a lot of them. He had so many injuries where in this quote unquote fake sport, he could have just retired. It's not worth it. It was to him. It was to him, even though he went
fell in love with it.
He loved it. He loved it, which is what I want to see, that kind of passion in any wrestler, whether I like them or not. To see their passion is what makes pro wrestling great. It's what makes characters get over. It makes promotions better. Kurt Angle is the greatest in-ring performer to ever wrestle, and there is no other. The mic, physicality,
honestly,
and there's no one better.
Honestly, anyone can name like several wrestlers in their top 5, but if Kurt Angle is it at the very least in your top 5, then you have no idea what you're talking about.
If you're going to talk about Mount Rushmore,
top 5.
I mean,
no, really, for real.
But I mean, like, if you're not going to talk about Mount Rushmore, I get it. Hulk's got to have a place up there, right? You know what I mean? So I can understand if somebody doesn't put him on the Mount Rushmore, whatever the Mount Rushmore means.
The top 5.
But I mean, like, if you're talking about the art of professional wrestling, where they can be not just an okay face or heel, they excel at both on the top of the card, on the very tippity top level. He was the best face at several times in his career. He was the best heel at several times. He could scare you to death and be like, he's a machine, he will kill you. Or he can make you laugh with the cowboy hat and shit on himself, but no, this is going to get me over more in the long run. Like, he could get in there with Kane and be like, fine, you're going to have the best match you've ever had.
A great match.
He can get in there with another great, like Shawn Michaels, who again, you would think but no, not because how many people have we seen get in there that have big names and they just don't click well. And it's Kurt Hennig and Shawn Michaels or whatever. And like, you're just like, oh, it just didn't really do it for me. He never had one of those moments. Never. Never. Flair had those. Michaels might have had a couple. I'm not saying Michaels had a lot because he probably didn't. But I mean, but Angle was so dominant on offense and selling. That's the important thing. Like, his offense looked amazing. Whether it was an angle slam from the top rope or just the angle slam or just the ankle lock, which didn't hurt his opponent at all in real life.
No.
You thought he's going to rip his fucking leg off right now, especially when he would collapse and then scissor the guy's leg with the ankle. Oh, that was it. You're not getting out of that. And like, it was all fake, but yet we all knew, oh shit, Angle's going to kill him. Like, I mean, what other wrestler gives you that emotion? Not many. Not many. I don't think hardly any, to be honest, like, except for him. For him.
I think Brock might come the closest to someone like to legitimately tear your leg
Brock's
off
a badass.
or kill you. But
well, because of his size, but I mean, Kurt.
Sure.
The like, he was a big
that
dude.
Brock was real.
Yeah.
But we all knew that Kurt was real. Like Kurt could take you down whenever he wanted to. There were people who were like, well, even Kurt said, well, is Taz going to try to hurt me? And Taz was like, oh my God, he can kill me. Like there was a lot of respect there, but Kurt was always so humble about it. Like, no, I know this is our work, but I don't want anybody to hurt me. I always think that's very humbling of Kurt. Like,
still,
he respected.
One of the best things about Kurt Angle was when he was going to fight Taz at Royal Rumble 2000, and Mick Foley told Taz the story. He's like, Kurt came up to me and said, "What if he shoots on me?" And Mick Foley told Kurt Angle, "Are you kidding me? You're
Kurt Angle."
Yeah, exactly. Fucking great.
You're Kurt Angle. I don't think you have any problem.
Kurt Angle cannot not be in your top 5 of all time, greatest of all time.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous
That's
anybody even thinks that if that he's not even close.
He cannot be lower than top 5. He cannot be lower than top 5.
Even if he never went to TNA, I would still put up a good argument
exactly.
that he's
no.
Like, he flawlessly got in there with The Undertaker, with every single Hall of Fame name you can think of. Every one. And he excelled with all of them.
Top
how many?
Barely.
He's got matches the year. How many 5-star matches does he have? I mean,
have you ever heard anybody say like, "Oh, Kurt Angle was a dick," or "He just didn't show up that night"?
No,
You've never heard that. That's crazy talk. Like, that's crazy talk.
How much credit does he get in the Ruthless Aggression documentary that came out? I haven't seen it, but does he get his props in that?
I actually haven't seen it.
Not really.
Not really. No.
Really?
No.
Wow.
Really?
Because
Cena got
goddamn,
highlighted. Lesnar got, because it was like a 5-part series or whatever.
If the World Heavyweight Championship was ever
well,
a big
to your
deal,
point
it
though,
was when
Craig,
Kurt Angle and Mark Henry.
To your point though, even though there was a lot of good stuff around him, a lot of the Ruthless Aggression was with Benoit, and I think that's kind of hard to talk about Angle like during that time because it was all with him.
They had to eliminate everything of Benoit in the process.
But he of course, and again, it's my whole phrase that they just don't trumpet certain people. Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels are the greatest wrestlers or in-ring performers of all time. Hulk and The Rock and Austin are the greatest draws, and that's it. And
Angle
we're done.
is too.
And Cena is great, and and that's it, and we're done. And but they don't ever talk about Angle. Why? How can you not? Like, at this point, Vince is famous for, he let the Warrior back. He lets people go. He lets it go after a while. Vince will let the grudge go. He'll let Goldberg come back in. He'll let the grudge go.
Never say never, pal.
Austin walked out, he'll let the grudge go. Why would you not tout Angle as one of the greatest wrestlers, if not the greatest wrestler you've ever had? Like, because he was. That's an inspiration to anyone that's young in that locker room. That you watch him, please. Watch everything he does. You want to talk about not someone who just gets it, but he excelled in the biggest wrestling era ever, the Attitude Era. He excelled. He was at the top of the card, and he made people look good no matter where he was on the card. That's like amazing. And he did it on a big level. You knew when his segment was coming. You remembered his segment because he was so good on the mic. We forget that little ditty that you can find on YouTube.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, ditty on YouTube where after Raw went off the air, he kept coming out and fucking with the crowd because he was coming off our dark match, and he got on the mic and he's like, "If you chant 'You suck' one more time, I'm gonna go to the back. I'm gonna walk out and I'm gonna come out and they're gonna redo my entrance every time until you learn not to chant 'You suck.'" Of course, the crowd's gonna chant "You suck." He went back like 4 times, and he's like, "If you do it again, I'm leaving." Like, and it was just this great, amazing. After the camera went off the air, how good he is, how awesome he is. He's great.
He made that Ricky Hogan look good.
Yeah, that little fucking bitch Hogan. I mean, he had a great match with Hulk and got.
I'm telling
you. He was the best. I know we've gone a long time or whatever, but I hope everyone said what they wanted to say. But I feel that strongly about him. I feel that you don't know what you're looking for.
Nope.
If you're a young wrestler and you want to watch someone, go watch anything he did, and he will show you like this is how you make it look real. This is how you sell. Like Cuz said, his facial expressions, and he can't believe he'd do a angle slam off the top rope and almost a 3 count. His opponent kicks out. He's writhing in pain and he's pissed. Like, how the fuck could that not have worked? Like, and it just a lot of wrestlers try, but Kurt Angle did all of it to the best. Scale of 1 to 10. 10 every time.
11.
One of the
He's an 11. Hit us up on Instagram at O.W.P 2019. Click on Linktree. You can find us on several platforms, including Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Stitcher. This is Dave, Jess, Cuz, and Craig after a long
type
but
of individual
deserved legacy of Kurt
that
Angle.
fathers
saying,
tell their sons about.
have a good one.
And when the story is over, the son looks at the father and goes, "No way that happened, Dad. No way that can be true." I was there. I lived it. And it's true. It's damn true. Ladies and gentlemen, a friend and mentor and a deserved member of the WWE Hall of Fame. Please welcome home the one, the only,